any claim against the ship by any stakeholders, then there is a problem. But that assurance, of course, the buyer is looking for when they buy the ship. That is quite normal. Every buyer will be very careful if the ship is sort of has any kind of liability. And not only that, maybe about mortgage. If the ship has been given mortgage to any bank or something, so that has to be ensured. So buyer will have to make sure there is no such thing, valid thing existing against the ship, and so there will be no protested or any kind of arrest or detention by any authority. So this is very important. That this is an important and a serious matter. I think that documents has to be in good condition. The ship's liability has to be ensured. The ship is not been mortgaged to any bank or any institution, or the company hasn't got any loan against that particular ship. So this has to be again verified through the broker, through the local sources. So broker has to find out that on behalf of his client. Okay, so that is quite all right. Condition on delivery. Clause 3 includes the added obligation that the vessel be delivered free of cargo and stowaways. See, a lot of important issues are there in the contract. That the ship has to be as you have been given to understand, or as they have declared by the sailor. The buyer also has to have a surveyor examined and survey the ship to ensure that it is as per the declaration, and also that you don't have any sort of a liability against the ship, or the ship is not mortgaged to any institution or a bank, and also they are looking for that ship doesn't have any cargo, because once you have a cargo, then there will be litigation, there will be problem, because the cargo has been brought by the previous owner, and you have no insurance against that cargo, etc. So if you keep the cargo, that could be could lead to a sort of a dispute and claim, alter claim, even a court case. And also that on delivery, the buyer wants that the ship should not have any stowaways, so they have to clear and declare the ship is free of any stowaways. But once you take delivery of the ship, stowaway may come after taking delivery of the ship. So this is not only that there will be stowaway when they are delivering the vessel to the buyer, but the stowaway may also come after the buyer takes delivery of the ship, after fulfilling the contract. These may give rise to practical issues using the condition of the vessel, as it is unclear whether free of cargo also requires the vessel to be free of any cargo residue. These are part of a sort of a if you want to be sort of that much of fussy, you can bring any issue. But cargo residue, if it is a tanker, maybe there's some residual oil is in the tank, or if it is a dry cargo vessel, maybe some traces of other cargo or dunnage material, etc. inside the cargo. So এখানে বলা হচ্ছে যে একটু জিনিসটাকে একটু জটিল করা হলো, যে ফ্রি অফ কার্গো বলতে কি, অলসো দ্যাট জাহাজের কোনো কার্গো, কোনো ট্রেস কিংবা রেসিডিউ নাই জাহাজের মধ্যে, that you can, since you have known this possibility, you being a buyer or seller, you can always clarify that and go ahead with the deal. Sellers defer clause 14. If the 3 banking days provided to seller after tender or an NOR to make arrangements for the documentation set out in clause 8 has been deleted from clause 14. This deletion is significant in light of the recent decision of the Court of Appeal in the Riva case. Sellers will now need to be diligent as regards these documents and certificates, as the grace period afforded to perfect problems, the documents has been removed. Okay. Seller's default. 3 banking days after notice of readiness, you have to arrange the documents. Clause 8A, list of documents that has to be delivered to the buyer. His list is already there. It has been deleted from clause 14. So that's okay. Clause 14 of the new ones is third. The deletion is significant in light of the recent decision of the Court of Appeal in Riva. See above, sellers will now need to be diligent as regards these documents and certificates, as the grace period accorded to perfect problems. Perfect problem with the documents has been removed. So this is a case that they have removed that option. The documents that ঠিক না থাকে, then you should allow an extra period for the seller to prepare the documents in order to hand over the ship to the buyer. So this is seller's default law and arbitration. 16 clauses. The wording of the law and jurisdiction clause has been updated. It retains the choice between English law and the London arbitration, or New York law and New York arbitration, or any other law and jurisdiction which the parties may be. In relation to the choice of English law and London arbitration option, any arbitration is now subject to LMA term, Law of Maritime Arbitration Agreement. That is a law of the international law of arbitration. So whatever the arbitration law of English law, or it is US law of arbitration, or any other European law of arbitration, but they are more or less the same in a standard according to the international arbitration agreement form. So that way there would not be much of difference between the different law of arbitration. But again, you can choose which law of arbitration you like to apply when some dispute arises. Okay. So that is depends on the party. Like in time charter party, work charter party, law of arbitration is there. Arbitration clause. You can fix the terms of which law you want to follow for arbitration, and including the location that you want to deal with it. You can say the arbitration as English law and arbitration in London. So English law in London হবে অথবা বাংলাদেশে হবে as per English law in Chittagong. So whatever is decided by the parties will be there in the agreement, but there will be a clause of arbitration. Notice clause 17, all notice between the parties will now need to be in writing and given in accordance with the clause 17, though no provision have been inserted to clarify when such notices are deemed to have been received. Normally in time charter, when you give a NOR, or even voyage charter, when you serve an NOR, you normally mentioned either NOR will be or other way lay times. Lay time will count 3 days. The following day at 1200 hours if the NOR served on the previous day after office hour. So or maybe after 6 hours after NOR is served. But এখানে বলা হচ্ছে কি there is no provision have been inserted to clarify such notices are deemed to have been received. এখানে সেই জিনিসটা ক্লারিফাই করা হয়নি এই নোটিশের মধ্যে, but that also you can, since you know that this is in cell form 2012 is not there, you can always add it, mutually know that there should be a time limit of 100%. Otherwise, you cannot take a decision, or you'll be a defaulter, or something will go wrong if there is no time limit for final acceptance of the NOR once you serve them to the client. Entire agreement clause কি বলছে দেখি, an entire agreement clause has been inserted which will result in any previous agreement whether oral or in writing between the parties being of no further effect as they will have been superseded by signed the MOA. So agreement clause, entire agreement clause 18, this has no implication as you sign the memorandum of understanding with the buyer. So this supersedes this requirement of this clause. This will go some way to avoiding disputes regarding alleged agreement made orally during negotiation and may prevent buyers from making misrepresentation claim. Okay, so this is something that will always be complicate the situation, because if you agree something on oral or just by calling on the phone, then of course this is will be problematic because oral is no evidence of any dispute settlement. So এখানে বলা হচ্ছে যে এমইউ করলে আর এটার কোনো এফেক্ট থাকবে না. This will go some way to avoiding dispute regarding a lease agreement made orally during negotiation. Okay, so negotiation orally হবে না. This is not it. This clause has also significantly effect you can see this. This clause has the significant effect of effectively excluding the implied terms of Sale of Goods Act 1979. So that will be taken off. Okay, significant effect of excluding the exclusion of this Goods Act. Much debate has centered around whether sale of ship under the sale form exclude the obligation of the seller to ensure that the vessel is of satisfactory quality and fit for the purpose pursuant to the statute. This removes any such argument and confirmation. Okay, so confirmation as is nature of the state sale and purchase. Okay, nature of the sale. আমি যখন পাঠাবো তোমরা এটা দেখতে পারবা, এটা যখন send it to you, I think there will be no problem on that. But আমি নাহলে এটা ঠিক করে তারপর তোমাদের কাছে পাঠাবো. Now I feel this is a giving some kind of a problem for presentation of the let's see what is this says that some useful amendments have been made to the standard form by this new revisions to Cell Form 2012. It is likely that this new form will in time become widely used, and potential users of the form should consider the amendments made and the impact of these changes on the working of MOA. Okay. The last slide is important. So it says that Cell Form 2012 is with all the revisions is more buyer friendly, and people should accept that. But there is always provision to sort of a change some of the clause terms and condition mutually. You can always amend it. Was it okay, this slide? Of course, I'm sure this has created some kind of irritation. At least it has caused to me, but I'm sure it has caused to all of you attending this class. So have you got some idea of the Cell Form 2012 that is used in buying and selling second-hand ship? Yes. Anyone would like to comment? কি সব তো তোমার কোনো কমেন্ট করবে? লাস্ট স্লাইডটা দেখেছো?
জি স্যার।
Did you get the concept of the form, the basic terms and condition of the form? And further, you can always look at it in your leisure time. Nippon Cell 1999, there was no revision on this Nippon Cell. You can see what they have: the introduction, payment of purchase price, delivery, liquidated damage, governing law and arbitration, all is there. So let's see what is a Nippon Cell terms and condition, standard terms and condition of sale and purchase. Sellers and buyers of second-hand vessels are sometimes faced with the question of which standard contract to use. Either the Norwegian Cell Form 2012, that is most commonly used in the Western market, or the Japanese Nippon Cell 1999 coming in second. However, if one party is based in the East and other in the West, negotiations sometimes begin with a battle of forms and a discussion as to which contract should be used for the day. Okay. So obviously, everyone will try to insist that you let us work out the agreement as per that form or this form. But again, it will depend on both the party. If the buyer will get should get his own terms. Otherwise, the seller may lose the buyer. And buyer also sometimes, seller also sometimes, this is more favorable for the seller point of view, and they'll insist to deal with their choice of cell form. But normally it is you decide which one you'd like to agree upon. Payment of purchase price. An important difference is the time when the buyer must remit the balance of the purchase price. While the Norwegian Cell Form requires the buyer to pay the balance of delivery of the vessel, The Nippon sale requires the buyer to pay the balance immediately after receipt of the seller's notice of readiness of the vessel. So there's a big difference, isn't it? So Nippon sale form in this case is favoring the seller. The notice of readiness receipt করার পরে তোমাকে পয়সাটা দিয়ে দিতে হবে. Notice of readiness doesn't really close the deal. You know, this is just to notice that after that you have to do a lot of other things to make sure that the ship you're getting is the right one. So আমি দেখতেছি যে Nippon sale in that way is favoring the seller's interest. Okay, once again I am reading that the Nippon sale, Norwegian sale says that the buyer to pay the balance on delivery. So 10% you pay in advance, the rest you immediately pay once the ship is delivered after the buyer is satisfied with the ship's survey report and everything. But Nippon sale কি বলছে এটা বলতেছে the buyer to pay the balance immediately after the receipt of the seller's notice of readiness of the vessel, which is tender 3 days. Again, it has been cut off. Okay, so you can see usually tendered vessel, the Nippon sale requires the buyer to pay the balance immediately after receipt of the 3 days. 3 days before delivery. Also reflects market practice in Japan. So this is একটা হচ্ছে যে notice of readiness দেওয়ার সঙ্গে সঙ্গে you have to pay and 3 days এখানে বলছেন Nippon sale requires the buyer to pay the balance immediately after receipt of the 3 day before delivery. This also reflects market practice in Japan. So 3 দিন আগে delivery অথবা notice of readiness পাওয়ার সঙ্গে সঙ্গে. So whatever practice they do or the party agrees will be there. One advantage of the Nippon sale solution is that the seller's bank may be more willing to discharge its mortgage to an earlier stage in the closing meeting. Nippon seller আবার ওখানে মর্টগেজের ব্যাপারে ওখানে কিছু বলা নাই, তো of course the buyer will always make sure the ship hasn't got any liability or mortgage to any sort of a bank against payment of any loan. That you have to make sure, and the broker will be there for helping you in this kind of a problem. But Nippon seller কি বলছে is the sale bank may be more willing to discharge his mortgage at an earlier stage in the closing meeting, as the buyer's funds will have been placed in an account under the bank's control. Although the bank is not entitled to settle the mortgage debt with the pre-positioned funds before the signing of the protocol of delivery and acceptance, however. So you can say there is a bit of play here again. যদি কোনো মর্টগেজ থাকে যখন টাকাটা সে পাবে from the buyer, সেখান থেকে সে এটাকে অ্যাডজাস্ট করে বলতেছে. Although the bank is not entitled to settle the mortgage debt with the pre-positioned funds যেটা দেওয়া হয়েছে তাকে before the signing of the protocol of delivery and acceptance. However, the Nippon sale may facilitate a less complex closing, as the classic chicken and egg problem has, to a certain extent, at least already been addressed. Okay, chicken first or egg first, whatever it is. But again, there is option for modifying this kind of terms in the contract that you can address. Once you know these kind of things are there, so you'll be careful when you are personally involved in such kind of deal. Delivery জায়গা কি বলা হচ্ছে, in both the Norwegian sale form and the Nippon sale, The cancellation date may be extended if the vessel is not delivered on time. Under the Nippon sale, the initiative lies with the buyer. Okay. So cancelling date পিছানোর ব্যাপারটা যেটা বলা হচ্ছে both এতে ফর্মে আছে এটা, but the initiative has to come from the buyer whether the buyer is interested to keep the deal intact and for certain reason have to extend the cancelling date for final negotiation or to continue negotiation for purchase of the vessel. So initiative lies the buyer which is entitled either to cancel the contract or to propose a new cancelling date. And such proposal to be made within 2 working days of the original cancelling date. So it has to be it has to be done within 2 days before the cancelling date. So under the Norwegian stale form, the seller has the seller which has the right to propose a new cancelling date. Okay, under the Norwegian sale form, it is the seller which has the right to propose a new cancelling date, although the buyer must accept the new cancellation date in order for the contract to be amended accordingly. এই জায়গা বলা হচ্ছে যে initiative lie with the buyer, she is entitled either to cancel. যদি বলা হয় initiative নেয় তাহলে buyer will sort of propose and the buyer must accept the new cancelling date, and then the contract has to be amended accordingly. Okay. So buyer takes the initiative, the seller will propose that cancelling date, yes, okay, and then buyers accept the new cancelling date, whatever is given by the seller, the new cancelling date. Okay. The Nippon sale provision does cause some uncertainty in the event that the buyer neither cancels the contract nor proposes a new cancelling date, leaving the seller with an obligation to deliver the vessel as soon as applicable. So it will be sort of an advantage to the seller if the buyer does not take the initiative and request for extension of the cancelling date, etc. Then seller will have the option or obligation to deliver the vessels as soon as he is able to do that, as soon as practicable. So it will be advantage to the seller. Contracting parties may wish to eliminate this uncertainty by amending the clause and including a specific period within which the delivery of the clause must have taken place. Okay. So I would suggest that you go through that this note I'll send to you after I fix this up. Then you go through that. Then you can make a table with the Norwegian sale, পাশাপাশি Nippon sale form, what are existing, what are the changes from Nippon sale form 1999 to 2012, 1993 and 1999, 93 and 1999 Nippon sale form, and 99 cell form and Norwegian cell form to 2012 cell form. So then that will give you sort of a clear picture of what is the difference between these two two contract form. One is 2012 and Nippon. One is 2012 and 1993 form. Contracting parties may wish to eliminate this uncertainty by amending the clauses and including a specific period in which the delivery of the vessel must have been taken place. So that is better not to keep any clause which is confusing. But these are the discussions and comments. I think that gives us a better picture what could be there and what should be amended. If we are involved somewhere. Oh, it going up delivery. We have gone through that delivery clause. Documents. Liquidated damage. Under this Nippon sale form, the buyer pays daily liquidated damage to the seller if the buyer fails to take delivery of the vessel under the Nippon sale. Norwegian sale form clause 9. Okay. So যদি buyer defaulter হয়, then there is a provision for liquidated damage that to be paid to the seller by the buyer in case he fails to take delivery. Okay, so that is an important clause of the contract terms that is very important. I understand. যদি ডিফল্টার হয় তাহলে বাইরের liquidated damage তাকে দিতে হবে. Most of the contract anywhere, not only in the sale and purchase, in all kinds of contract, like even if you buy a flat and there is a time of delivery and you don't take delivery, you pay the liquidated damage. But either way, if the builder fails to deliver the flat the time agreed upon, then the liquidated damage will be paid to the buyer, vice versa. Okay, and if the buyer fails to take delivery, the buyer paid. But in Nippon sale, similar clause is there. Liquidated damage accrue as of the third day of delivery after notice of readiness has been issued, and up until the 10th day of delay. After this, the seller may choose to cancel the contract and claim damages for any losses not covered by the liquidated damage and any deposit. এটা হলো সাংঘাতিক strong clause which goes in favor of the seller. So buyer যদি defaulter হয়, then 10 দিন পর্যন্ত liquidated damage দিতে পারবে, তারপরে সে ক্লোজ করে দেবে এবং then he'll claim the various losses. This can be to any extent. When any claim is any claim is made by any party, they always flatten that claim to 2 to 3 times higher than actually what has happened. So this situation will be the same. Probably the seller will come out with a lot of explanation that আমার এই loss হয়ে গেছে. Now will claim from the buyer that you must pay. But if he doesn't pay, what happens? It is another story. So they'll always look for an opportunity to if the buyer is also a ship owner, they will gather information on the market that he has a ship which is trading around the world and one fine morning you might say the ship is arrested. So this kind of risk will arise. So if that happens, so the seller may choose to cancel the contract and claim damages for any losses not covered by the liquidated damage, and any deposit any deposit. The Norwegian cell phone has no such provision, and liquid damage, okay, gives the seller such option. Okay, so Norwegian cell form doesn't have this provision, so probably the buyers will be interested to go with the Norwegian cell form than Nippon cell form, with certain advantages there, but mostly it looks like to disadvantage for the buyer point of view. The Norwegian cell form gives the parties a choice of 3 different clauses regarding the law of arbitration. English law, London arbitration, the default option, New York law, and arbitration, or law and venue to be specifically agreed upon. So, तीनटा option there is in the Norwegian cell form for going into arbitration. Okay. Unsurprisingly, the Nippon cell provides for disputes to be submitted to arbitration in Tokyo at the Tokyo Maritime Arbitration Commission. You can see that is a big difference. So apparently it is very clear that Nippon cell form is more friendly towards the seller than the buyer. But again, it is possible to change mutually negotiating between the parties. It's not that mandatory. You have to, unless you agree, it's not mandatory. It is taken in a standard cell form, and then the party may go through it and make some amendments at the field in a win-win situation for both of them. There is no choice of law clause in the Nippon cell. On the assumption that a Japanese arbitration panel will apply Japanese law may appear exotic to Western parties. Japanese civil law is partly based on German law, and this is similar in many respects to the law of the continental Europe. However, should a party prefer an arbitration to take place in the neutral ground, the contract must be amended to include both the alternatives. So that is quite obvious that the buyer may like to change this arbitration clause and go for a neutral place for arbitration. And arbitration venue and the choice of governing the law. So whatever law you choose, you can choose that, provided both the party agrees that too. Okay. So that is the last piece of my horrible slides, but nevertheless, you could read out exactly what is there, and it is a fine information that you have at the same time reading all 3 of them separately. You can see in the comparison which is more suitable to the buyer in the buyer point of view, and which is more suitable to the seller in the seller's point of view. And then you have to negotiate to come to a common agreement, and, by modifying the clauses. Okay. Any question from your point of view? Yes.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম। তোমরা কি সকলেই ছিলে during the
Sir,
hour
sir.
just talking? কয়টা বাজে? 9টা বেজে গেছে। আমার আজকে তোমাদের কোনো কোশ্চেন না থাকলে let me finish it today. Let me do some surgery on this paper. Okay.
স্যার আমাদের কাছে পাঠালে স্যার এরপরে স্যার আমরা দেখে আর এটা স্যার ম্যাক্সিমাম যেটা ছিল স্যার স্লাইড সেলফ এক্সপ্লেনেটরি ছিল তো স্যার আশা করি স্যার বুঝতে পারবেন
ঠিক করে নেবে।
জি স্যার আমরা ঠিক করে নিতে পারবো স্যার
আচ্ছা, the informations are all there. The only thing is that as I am almost I don't call myself a layman, but I'm learning how to use the computer.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।
Yes, walaikum assalam.
স্যার আমাদের যেহেতু সামনে মিড টার্ম এক্সাম স্যার, আমরা কি কোনো সাজেশন পেতে পারি স্যার?
Yes, Mr. Ratu, is it?
জি স্যার।
আচ্ছা, 15 মার্কে প্রশ্ন আর সাজেশন কি হতো কি? আমি যেগুলা পড়িয়েছি এটা থাকবে না, আজকে যেগুলো পড়াচ্ছি এগুলো তোমার থাকবে না। এ পর্যন্ত যেগুলা পড়ানো হয়েছে, চার্টারিং, বিশেষ করে ভয়েস চার্টারিং, টাইম চার্টারিং, ওই এগুলো একটু দেখে নিও। তোমার ভয়েস চার্টার, টাইম চার্টার, দুটা পার্থক্যগুলা কি আছে, where that they apply, the terms of the charter party. I've seen, I've given you two charter parties, and I have given you the names of various other charter parties. What are the charter parties that are available? Beside what I have given you, there are much more charter parties are in the market. So, and most of the charter parties have the similar format. So, look at the charter parties, look at the voice charter party, time charter party, কি জিনিস, and clause এর মধ্যে আছে তোমার demarage, dispatch, এগুলা একটু দেখবে, lay time, lay days, একটু ভালো করে পড়ে নেবে, তাহলেই তো হয়ে যাবে। আর কিছু লাগবে না। কিছু লাগবে? I don't remember the question that I've set in. তো অনেক আগে লন্ডনে থাকতে কোশ্চেন সেট করে পাঠিয়ে দিয়েছিলাম। But I believe on this line I've set out the questions, and you will be able to answer hopefully with that. আমি স্ট্রেট ফরওয়ার্ড কোশ্চেন খুব একটু কম করি, বাট ঘুরে খুলে জিনিস প্রশ্নটা বুঝে লিখলে you cannot go wrong. Okay, and some very small definition is also there, which you all know, those who in the business and shipping. না পুরো পরীক্ষা দেওয়া যাবে, right? Ratul, are you happy?
Yes sir, thank you sir.
স্যার আমরা
কোশ্চেন কি চারটা থাকবে স্যার, দুইটা লিখতে হবে স্যার?
No, there'll be 4 questions. You'll answer 3, 5 each. Each
Yes, sir.
question. Maybe there are sections, I don't remember, but chapter question আছে, 3টা answer করতে হবে. So you have a choice. 5 marks this question, time allowed 1 hour. Okay, 1 ঘন্টা. So 15 মার্কের জন্য 1 ঘন্টা is good enough. Because finally you'll have 60 marks, which is of course 3 hours. So সেই দিক দিয়ে চিন্তা করলে 1 hour should be. And time বেশি লেখার I don't like that you write more than what is required. The answer to the question specifically what is asked for, and I don't think you have to write too much. Probably you can finish it in half an hour. Okay, টাইম চার্টার পড়ো। ওর মধ্যে যেসব চার্টারের মধ্যে যেসব ক্লজ গুলো আছে ওগুলো একটা দেখে নিও, ডেমারেজ, ডেট ফ্রেট, ডিসপ্যাচ, এগুলা একটু দেখে নিও কি জিনিস, এগুলা কখন হয়, কেন হয়। দেন ওয়ান্স অন ডেমারেজ, অলওয়েজ অন ডেমারেজ, এটা কনসেপ্টটা কি ইত্যাদি। ঠিক আছে, you do understand that, isn't it? Vessel once in demurrage is always in demurrage. I think I discussed that in the class, didn't I? Yes.
So wireless scale থেকে কোন কোশ্চেন আসবে স্যার?
কোনটা?
Wireless scale.
escape wireless, আবার বলো আপনার নাম।
স্যার wireless scale স্যার।
ওয়ার্ল্ড স্কেল, ও পড়া তো ভালো, পড়লে তো ভালো, তোমার জন্যই ভালো, তাই না? এখন না থাকলে ফাইনালে থাকবে, কোন সময় থাকবে। ওয়ার্ল্ড স্কেল is important to know world scale, what it is, why does it apply. Are you a seafarer, Afanur Rahman?
স্যার আগে ছিলাম এখন নাই।
আগে ছিলাম মানে আগে থাকলে
মানে
এখন
স্যার আমার হলো যে স্যার ওই মেরুদণ্ডের সমস্যা হয়েছে, তার ওখানে যাওয়া পসিবল না ইঞ্জিন সাইডে তো স্যার।
তুমি কি হিসেবে সেল করেছিলে জাহাজে?
স্যার ক্যাডেট হিসেবে।
তারপরে শেষ ক্যাডেট হিসেবে বাদ দিয়েছো?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, মানে আমার মেরুদণ্ডে একটু সমস্যা পাওয়া গেছে, আমার তো এই হাই মানে বেশি ভারী কাজ করতে মানা করে দিচ্ছে।
আরে চিফ অফিসারকে বললেই হতো, তোমাকে ভারী কাজ দিত না, বিকজ ইউ হ্যাভ ফিজিক্যাল কনস্ট্রেইনটস। বাট একটা অ্যাটলিস্ট সেকেন্ড মেট তো একটা শেষ করে নিতে, একটা সার্ভে নিলে তোমাদের জন্য ভালো ছিল, because that would have counted in your career, isn't it? ক্যাডেট হিসাবে কিছু কাউন্ট হয় না, though you have some knowledge on the ship's operation, but certificate, the only thing that tells people that you know something is a certificate. That could have helped you in still it help you since you have some জাহাজে কয় বছর ছিলে?
স্যার আমি তো বেশি দিন ছিলাম না, আমরা তো মানে 5 মাস ছিলাম।
একাডেমির কোন ব্যাচ তুমি?
স্যার আমি স্যার ইয়েতে মেরিন ফিশারিজ থেকে স্যার 37তম ব্যাচ।
ফিশারিজে কোন ব্যাচ তুমি?
37তম।
Did you serve on fishing vessel or merchant ships?
স্যার মার্চেন্টেও ছিলাম, এরপরে ফিশিং এও কিছুদিন করেছি।
Okay, so you got experience in both for a short while at least. ঠিক আছে, আমি ওয়ার্ল্ড স্কেল করতে পারো, বাট I don't remember whether it is there or not.
স্যার হেগবিসবি
জেনে রাখা ভালো। হ্যাঁ,
হেগবিসবি রুলস।
কি বলবো আমি, না হেগেজগুলো নাই, যাও তোমাদেরকে আমি ইজি করে দিলাম।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Okay, but এগুলার ফাইনালে কিন্তু there will be everything, so the entire syllabus will be there.
ইয়েস স্যার, ইয়েস।
Since this is a midterm and you have gone through some kind of a problem like in COVID-19 and everything, so we all are very considerate in that. Okay, তোমরা সকলে ফাইনাল মিডটার্ম পরীক্ষাটা দিও। আজকে আমি দেখছি যেখানে 15 জন উপস্থিত আছে। It's a good thing that you are all there, very much. তোমাদের মধ্যে কেউ তো জাহাজে নাই না? এই তোমাদের এই আজকে যা 16 জন আছে, এখানে 15 জন।
দুজন আছে স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, কয়জন?
প্রণয় এবং ইয়াসিন।
কে আছে? ওয়াসিম,
ইয়াসিন উলাজম একটু আগে ডিসকানেক্ট হয়ে গেছে স্যার, ছিল স্যার।
কেন হয়ে গেছে?
জি স্যার, প্রণয় আছে স্যার।
Is he on ship now?
জি স্যার।
Is he in Bangladesh না বাইরে, overseas?
ইয়াসিনের শিপ স্যার চিটাগং পোর্টে আসছে, প্রণয় বোধহয় বাইরে আছে। কাজী খালেদ মাহমুদ উনিও বাইরে আছেন স্যার।
সেও জাহাজে এখন, কাজী খালেদ?
জি স্যার।
He is there on the online.
জি স্যার।
So are they not coming for
আজকে সবাই ছিল স্যার।
হ্যাঁ।
জি স্যার, কাজী খালেদ আসবেন, প্রণয় এবং ইয়াসিন সম্ভবত আসতে পারবে।
মিস না করে যেন, মিস করলে তো he will be going 1 year behind most probably. And we don't know what
Yes, sir.
happen or something, because there'll be no special exam for that. So he has to wait for the next turn of the same subject exam on the same subject done with the next new course, new batch. So that will be a bit of uncertainty. So ওইভাবে করলে তার জাহাজের সাথে তার কানেক্ট করা ডিফিকাল্ট। কখন হয় ঠিক নাই, জাহাজের চাকরিতে কখন জাহাজের চাকরি হয় তার ঠিক নাই। সুতরাং আগে থেকে প্ল্যান না করলে অসম্ভব। সো এখন দিস ইজ দ্য মিড টার্ম এক্সাম, ফাইনাল যখন হবে অক্টোবরে। অলসো those who are on board the ship has to plan out in advance. Okay, so পরীক্ষাটা হওয়ার আগে একটু জেনে নিও অ্যাডভান্স যে কবে হবে, আন্দাজ করে সেভাবে প্ল্যান করে জাহাজ থেকে নামার চেষ্টা করতে হবে। You have done this part. This is your final semester, EFSL
স্যার জি স্যার, ফাইনাল সেমিস্টার স্যার।
final semester. So why to sort of give up at this juncture of your pursuing the course, degree course? Anyway, so unless you have anything more to discuss, I say goodbye to all of you.
স্যার আমাদের কি স্যার অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট দিবেন স্যার এখন?
অ্যাসাইনমেন্টটা আমি ঠিক করে পাঠিয়ে দেবো তোমাদেরকে, ঠিক আছে?
জি স্যার, আমরা ফাইনালের আগে স্যার একটু শেষ করে ফেলতাম স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, অফকোর্স ফাইন লাগিয়ে দেবো আমি। আই সেন্ড ইউ দ্য ফ্রাইডে স্যাটারডে আমার ছুটি আছে, বসে আমি একটা ঠিক করে দিয়ে দেবো। ওকে,
জি স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ।
ওকে, অ্যাসাইনমেন্টটা কমপ্লিট করে রাখা ভালো ডেফিনেটলি। যদি সময় পায় আর একটা ক্লাস টেস্টও নেব। ক্লাস টেস্ট অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমাদের নেওয়ার কথা 3টা, সেখানে আমরাও গাফিলতি করছি, এটা নিয়ে আর নেওয়া হয়নি। মাঝখানে তোমরা 1.5 মাস ক্লাস করলে না, সবকিছু একটু জটিল আকার ধারণ করে গেছে। উইল সি। তোমাদের প্রশ্ন হচ্ছে যে যখন প্রশ্ন করা হবে তখন কিন্তু পুরো সিলেবাসের উপর প্রশ্ন করা হয়, এবং তখন আমরা তো জানি যে কি পড়ানো হয়েছে কি পড়ানো হয়নি, কিন্তু যারা এক্সটার্নাল কিংবা সেকেন্ড যে এক্সাম সেক্রেটার হয় সে তো জানে না, সে তো সব জায়গা থেকে প্রশ্ন করে থাকে। ইউ গেট মি?
জি স্যার।
মডারেশনে গিয়ে সেইভাবে মডারেশন হয়, তখন সমস্যা হয়ে যায়। যেহেতু we are supposed to finish the syllabus, that is a standing practice. তোমাদের ক্ষেত্রে করা যাবে কিনা I doubt very much. এখন তোমাদের তো কোনো প্রিপারেটরি লিভ নাই, তাই না? You are always online, so you are not a regular attending the university. যারা রেগুলার করে তাদের প্রিপারেটরি লিভ থাকে পরীক্ষার আগে 15 দিন। সো সেক্ষেত্রে তোমাদেরকে আশা করি পরীক্ষার আগ পর্যন্ত পাওয়া যাবে 200 টাকা, তাই না? ফাসাল?
জি স্যার, জি স্যার, পাওয়া যাবে স্যার।
Okay then, see you next class. Saturday I'll not be there, but Madam Alima Madam will be there to look after you, and wish you good luck, all of you.
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Bye bye.
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।